All right, man, peace. So it was long overdue. Former NFL great wide receiver Terrell Owens finally was selected for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. As we know, prior to him finally getting selected, he was at the center of a maelstrom that was put forth by many members of the sports media who had an axe to grind with him because he did not represent the image of the NFL player that they deemed fit to be an NFL Hall of Famer. But in the aftermath of him getting selected, many of his biggest detractors in the mainstream sports media have come out and congratulated him. Why is that? Because they knew and understood the whole time that he deserved to be in. And they were just using the controversy surrounding the delay in him getting selected for the Hall of Fame as a talking point, as a news cycle event that really was just fake news. And some of them just had a lot of holdover bitterness from the late 90s into the 2000s, where Terrell Owens may not have given them an interview. He may not have been as cooperative as they would have liked. So they wanted to emit a lot of that bitch energy that many males in this society like to emit when they don't get their way. But anyway, Terrell is in now. They're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
I'm Jason Whitlock.
I see you, Jason.
Whitlock. I have no problem with Terrell Owens not making the Hall of Fame. T.O., talent-wise and stat-wise, is a Hall of Fame player.
So that means that he should go to the Hall of Fame because there are no other parameters other than stats to determine on whether or not a player is a Hall of Fame player. That's it. It's about productivity on the field.
My standard for getting into the Hall of Fame should be, did you make the game great?
Well, as we all know, many of the more prominent players in NFL history did not make the game any greater. All they did was play their part. When you talk about Jerry Rice and John Elway and some of the other faces that were shown in this little montage, you're talking about all-time great NFL players. You're talking about first ballot. Do I believe that T.O. is a first ballot Hall of Famer or should have been? Yes, I do. When you look at the statistics for greatest wide receivers ever, T.O.'s name is going to come up in the top 5 to top 3 to maybe even top 2 for every statistic in regards or in relation to wide receivers. He was a first ballot Hall of Famer. And fortunately for him, now he's in. I did a video about him and Randy Moss in which I stated that this is going to be a true referendum on the NFL Hall of Fame voting process because they would have looked like complete hypocrites if they would have selected Randy Moss and not Terrell Owens. I truly believe that Terrell Owens should thank Randy Moss because Randy Moss provided a barometer for the NFL Hall of Fame voting committee because they would not have been able to hold out two guys at once like that. It would have been too glaring. So they had to let in both.
It's a great game. Did you contribute to the greatness of the game of football? Name the Hall of Famer that's had 4 or 5 teams say, nah, get your ass out of here.
Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders was on 4 teams.
Doesn't happen to Hall of Fame. I'm Jason Whitlock.
I see you, Jason.
Whitlock.
Welcome back, Tony Gonzalez, Mark Schlereth here. Let's move to T.O., who was elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame on Saturday. He came up short his first 2 years in the ballot. A lot of people didn't want Owens in due to his character issues, including our buddy Whitlock here. But even you gave it up for T.O., tweeting, quote, "Congrats, man. Yes, I wasn't a supporter, but I sincerely hope this brings you joy, peace, and a new level of respect. You were a tremendous player. Be a good teammate to your fellow Hall of Famers. Congrats." To which T.O. replied simply, "Kick rocks."
Good for T.O. Remind me of something I probably would have said to somebody being fake and phony. You know, damn well you're not happy. You're just another curmudgeon, somebody trying to make a name for yourself by talking about a controversial issue. And as I've stated in the past, I don't mind Whitlock. I think that Whitlock is a necessary evil. He speaks a lot of inconvenient truths, and he is not politically correct. But as I've stated incessantly about him, he's like Reggie Jackson. He either hits a home run or he strikes out. When it comes to T.O., he was striking out big time, and it shows you that in his deepest recesses, he knew that Terrell Owens is a Hall of Famer. So he should have been ashamed of himself. Kind of like a bully who's trying to join in on a mob mentality And once the focus of the bullying stands up for himself, all the bullies say, hey, man, no hard feelings. No, fuck all that. No, there's going to be some hard feelings. That's what Terrell Owens basically is telling Whitlock. Because you're trying to stop this man from getting what he deserves. You can't do that. Whenever someone is trying to stop someone from getting what they deserve, it's usually a sign of intense envy, which is even worse than jealousy.
Whitlock and T.O. deserve to get into the Hall.
Look, again, based off talent and production, absolutely.
So case closed.
My standard, if I were in that room, I would have went against him again because I don't think he was a consistent contributor to the overall greatness of his teams. I think he got booted off too many teams, but again, it's over with now. T.O. is a Hall of Famer. He's got his gold jacket. I'm in support of him.
No, sir, it doesn't work like that. You can't be in support of him after he gets into the Hall of Fame. That's what's called being a bandwagon jumper. It'd be more respectable if you had stuck to your guns and said, I still don't think that T.O. deserves to be a Hall of Famer. In your tweet, if you would have tweeted that to Terrell, I think that he would have respected you more. I think that he read the same vibe that I read, which is that you're full of shit, as well as full of a lot of cotton candy and Hershey's Kisses and Reese's Pieces and a lot of other foulness in your belly.
In the Hall of Fame and the guys that inducted him, I lost the debate. There are many more players that I have a problem with being in the Hall of Fame than Terrell Owens. I mean, that I just don't think their play was good enough.
Yeah.
Well, you should name some names.
Yeah.
To be in the Hall of Fame. And so, I'm done bashing Terrell Owens in this Hall of Fame deal. T.O., I've kicked some rocks and I'm over it.
I'm happy for Terrell Owens. This is a person who's had some financial issues, particularly in regards to quote-unquote baby mama drama. People don't understand that when you become a Hall of Famer, that multiplies the level of value of your signature, your autographs. Now you become the belle of the ball at autograph signings, photos that are taken, appearances. This is a way for him to generate a 6 to 7 figure income every year. That's how O.J. Simpson still is able to live the lavish life. A lot of people don't grasp. Joining the NFL Hall of Fame is a very prestigious club that augments your money-making ability. So they literally were stopping T.O. from getting paid for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought Hall of Fames are houses of production, not houses of worship.
Well, Colin, you have a very mature outlook on that because most people view athletes as gods. So they hold them to this pristine standard of conduct. And that's just not what they should be evaluated off of. They should be evaluated based on their level of productivity.
Not houses of character, they're houses of production. A Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Show me your platinum records.
Here you go with the Hall of Fame.
Well, that's when all Hall of Fames are like that. I mean, here again, no drugs, no cheating, no doubt.
Agreed. T.O. was never involved in any type of controversy off the field. You never heard about him with any gun charges, illegal drugs, beating on women, anything that may be considered a smite on his record. So I just don't understand how much or how in-depth anyone could try to garner up any information on him to try to sully his name and keep him out of the Hall of Fame. I think that it's just 2 years too late. But better late than never.
I got massive production. By the way, he couldn't have been that hurtful to a team's momentum. He got to Super Bowls. The Niners were good. Philadelphia was good.
Dallas was good. They just couldn't get over the hump because they had a bugged out quarterback named Tony Romo. But wherever T.O. went, success normally traveled after him. It was not a coincidence that Philadelphia got to the Super Bowl the year that he was there. They never got there before he got there in regards to the Andy Reid, Donovan McNabb time period, and they never got there after. So fortunately for them, they finally won the championship this past year. Prior to that, the last time that they got there was when T.O. was there. Now, we know T.O. got hurt in the latter part of that season, and the Eagles were able to make it to the Super Bowl without him. But it was due to the energy that he was able to generate, the explosiveness that he was able to bring to their offense that I think pushed them over the edge, over the hump.
Those were good teams when he got there. They were good teams when he left. Listen, he was needy. But come on, man, not everybody can be Larry Fitzgerald. Like a lot of
asking for Larry Fitzgerald.
Well, I mean, again, his numbers are tremendous. He didn't play with, I'm sorry, I don't think Donovan McNabb's not an all-time great quarterback. He was
an okay quarterback. Well, let me not say that. Donovan was a very good quarterback, but T.O. was only there 1 year. And beyond that, Donovan is the equivalent of a coach who can get you to a good spot but can't win a championship. He was not a title-level quarterback, but he was a guy who put up good numbers and was able to get to some Pro Bowls consecutively. When Donovan McNabb's name comes up as a possible Hall of Famer, if he gets in, it'll probably be in his 6th or 7th year of eligibility.
Played with some okay quarterbacks and put up monster numbers.
He played for Andy Reid, one of the great offensive minds in football, according to you. And
touche. Colin Cowherd has overrated Andy Reid for a very long time.
And most people.
Very clever, yeah.
Donovan McNabb was a hell of a quarterback in his time, went to multiple Pro Bowls. Jeff Garcia was a Pro Bowl, and T.O. helped him do that. Look,
Jeff Garcia was above average. T.O. turned him into a very good quarterback while he was there with him. That is another testament to the fact that T.O. should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. Great wide receivers actually raise the level of play of their quarterbacks. Good wide receivers get their level of play elevated by a great quarterback.
Look, I don't have a problem with T.O. being in the Hall of Fame now that he's in.
Friday.
Yeah, I did. Now that he's in, look, I try to respect all Hall of Fame. Again, when I think about guys that don't belong in the Hall of Fame, T.O. isn't the highest on my list. There's a bunch of other guys.
T.O. was an incredibly productive player. And because he was a productive player, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, to me, that's the end of the story.
Period. It should never have been this much of a controversy. But it was spurred on by Skip Bayless, and then Jason Whitlock jumped on board. Why is that? Because Fox Sports 1 is kind of trying to pick up steam and build up momentum to be a rival of ESPN. Now, in the grand scheme of things, it's all a bunch of corporate nothing, because they're both under the same umbrella company, that being Disney. But, it's much like in New York, the hip-hop radio stations that allegedly have the rivalry, Hot 97 and Power 105, but they're both owned by the same umbrella corporation. So it is what it is. I think the fact that Jason Whitlock is now congratulating T.O. and Skip Bayless also congratulated him in the morning show, the show Undisputed, is pretty much proof, in my view, that both of them understand that T.O. deserves to be there. They just don't happen to like him on a personal level.
Like I always say, if I put a 5-minute highlight tape of myself together, there's no keep me out of the Hall of Fame. It's the other 7,000 minutes that I played that keep me out of the Hall of Fame, right? So that's the problem. If it was the Hall of Good Guys, I'd be in. I'd be in the...
Allegedly.
Be in the Hall of Good Guys. I wasn't a good enough player to be in the Hall of Fame. He's a great player.
Not even a good player.
He was a great player. And so I look at all the
bad teammate, great player.
Well,
how would you know that? You were not on his team. There are people who might accuse you of being a bad teammate at Fox Sports 1, Jason Whitlock. Does that mean you should not get a Pulitzer Prize? People have to understand that when you decide that you're going to castigate participants in a certain field because of your personal dislike, that means that you're not fit to be a judge in the first place. Any judge or evaluator has to have a certain level of discretion and objectivity. If you cannot generate those two things, those two attributes, then you should not be in charge of evaluation.
But there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys who aren't good teammates that you look at and go, that dude's a great... Hey, listen, I don't need to pick out curtains with the dude. I just want him to show up on Sunday and wreck the game.
Exactly.
And as long as he does that, we're going to be all right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and coming off the field, you don't care what the guy does. You can sleep in your car. You can do whatever you want. Just show up and get sacks or catch the football, whatever it is. You do it and do it great. T.O. did that. Deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I always look at this. I heard this from somebody. I don't know where I heard it from. But if you're telling a story of the NFL.
Oh, that's
telling a story of the NFL.
I agree with Whitlock. I don't like that metric either. I understand the people who try to use it, but to me, that's an attempt to install a narrative. I don't believe that if you're telling the story of the NFL, you can't tell it without this person should be a barometer for them making the Hall of Fame. That's just as bad as the other end of the spectrum of people like Whitlock, who believe that because T.O. was allegedly not a good teammate, that he should not be in the Hall of Fame. Those are two separate things. A person should be evaluated strictly based off of their performance on the field.
T.O. has to be mentioned. If you were explaining what the NFL was all about from the beginning of its inception
They
to where it is now,
football
his name would
it's
come
a
up.
fairy tale now. It's not a fairy tale.
Forget about what he did off the field. I'm talking about from on the field, what he's done or did over his career.
My problem is with this standard they've created. Can you tell the story of the NFL without this guy? And it's like, this isn't a children's story. It's about what you did on the field, in the game. And so I get it. People that...
Well, then if it's about that, then you should never have had an issue with T.O. not getting in or getting into the Hall of Fame in the first place. You should have been an advocate for him being selected for the Hall of Fame from year one, Jason Whitlock. The same way that you're perturbed by the injection of this strange barometer or metric about can you tell the story of the NFL without this player, which I agree with you, you should be equally annoyed by your notion that T.O. was a quote-unquote bad teammate, and that should nullify his productivity on the field. No, sir.
People that can't evaluate football, they want to turn it into a storytelling deal. And can you tell the story without Tim Tebow? Ray Rice. I can tell a bunch of guys you got to throw in there if it's just a storyteller.
That's a valid point, sir.
But he couldn't have been that. There couldn't have been that much disdain for him in every locker room. Now I think he may have driven some coaches crazy. But
That's part of football.
No question. But every time we did stories at the other place, there'll always be players like, I like T.O. I mean, crazy players. Pac-Man Jones got a lot of boys in that locker room that love him.
A lot of guys loved O.J. Simpson. A lot of guys love a lot.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with the issue at hand, Jason Whitlock. Beyond that, O.J. Simpson is a Hall of Famer. Even if he was convicted and found if they had camera footage of him stabbing up them two white people, he would still deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Bottom line. And no, O.J. Simpson did not kill those two people. I already did a video on that. The notion that a world famous former athlete who could get any woman that he wanted was going to stand outside of his ex-wife's house, the cokehead whore that she was, standing out there with a knife and an all-black suit on, waiting for her to come out, as opposed to just hiring a hitman to kill the bitch if he hated her that much, is ridiculous. The notion that he had a cut on his finger that was not on either one of the gloves, and that still meant that somehow he was the killer, is ludicrous. The fact that they allowed evidence to be administered into the court case that was found by an out-and-out racist like Mark Furman. I've stated this before. If O.J. Simpson's last name was O.J. Steinberg, and the evidence that was used in the trial was found by someone who was found to be someone who sympathized with the Nazis, they would have thrown the evidence out and they would have thrown the court case out. The fact that even went to trial with the amount of evidence that was tampered with, having blood droplets appear around Nicole Brown Simpson's home that were not there originally, with Detective Van Adder carrying around O.J. Simpson's blood for days. It was ludicrous. But most of these people don't do their research, but it is what it is. I might touch on that case in another video in the future.
A lot of guys
being sinister. T.O.'s just needy.
Again, you can find someone on every team that got along with, X number of guys. There was a bunch of guys that didn't like
I think your argument...
Good, and there's a bunch of people who don't like you. Does that mean that you're a poor writer, sir? I mean, let's judge ourselves by the same barometers and metrics that we judge others.
Your argument holds water if he's a good receiver.
Absolutely. Great point. And I said the same thing. Now, when you're a Chad Ochocinco is not going to the Hall of Fame because he was just good to very good. When you're talking about a Terrell Owens, he was a transcendent player. He was a transcendent wide receiver. So if 100% of the voters would have voted him in if he was a perfect person because of his stats, well, if he's an asshole, then that should drop it down to about 75 to 80%. Now, a Chad Ocho, if he was a great person, it probably would have been 75 to 80% of the voters he would have got. But now, because he was so flamboyant and he polarized so many of the football media, it probably dropped down to about 50%. So now he's not going to get in. Chad will never make the Hall of Fame. He'll never have a chance to. Plus, he had very little to no playoff success. At least T.O. has some playoff moments that he can look to and point towards, whether it was the catch from Steve Young against Green Bay or the appearance in the Super Bowl against New England. He has some type of success that he can point to.
And you're like, okay, does he? He's the baseball guy with a 288 career average.
Agreed.
You can't keep Jeter out. He's way up there.
All right, let's do this then. Let's reduce the argument to this. Everybody's acting like it's a crime that he got in on the third vote. But there's only been 2 guys that get in on the first. Jerry Rice, at his position, Jerry Rice and Randy Moss this time.
I believe that Steve Largent got in on the first ballot as well, but one of you brothers can correct me on that if I'm wrong about that. But I believe that Steve Largent also got in on the first ballot.
I don't think T.O.'s on the same level as those 2 guys.
Well, he didn't get in on the first ballot.
No, I understand that. So
Yeah.
there's been no crime committed
No.
that he was in the third ballot. Same as Michael Irvin, who won 3 Super Bowls. Same as Marvin Harrison, who was terrific. Got in quicker than Chris Carter.
I don't think that the issue necessarily is so much that he didn't get in on the first ballot, even though I believe that he should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer, because I think that he's on the same level as a Randy Moss. And I think that people have a hard time distinguishing between who the better receiver was as opposed to who the more spectacular receiver was. Randy Moss is the most spectacular receiver in NFL history. Like I did a video a while ago where I stated that the wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Antonio Brown, in my view, is a better receiver than Randy Moss was, and that's what I think. Just watching how Antonio Brown plays, how he can run the entire route tree, how he has no fear going over the middle, how he plays big in playoff situations. Randy Moss was the most spectacular wide receiver ever. Unbelievable speed, phenomenal catch radius, great hands, but he would disappear in big moments. A lot of times he would not run that slant over the middle when you needed him to. Every once in a while he would, but when you needed him to, a lot of times he wouldn't. By his own words, he played when he wanted to. That's the difference. That's how I evaluate better. Not more spectacular, but better. Vince Carter was a more spectacular player than Kobe Bryant. Before the injuries, Vince Carter was arguably the most spectacular player in the NBA in the last, I don't know how many years, how many decades. Like just as in regards to how spectacular he was on the level of Michael Jordan, but he was not as good as Kobe Bryant, mentally or skill-wise. So it's a difference.
Then Art Monk, there was no crime committed to T.O. because he had to wait.
Where is
if
he?
Tony Gonzalez has to wait,
that's a crime.
That's a crime.
Right, but that wasn't the controversy. The controversy was that you guys stated that he should not go in at all. It wasn't like you and Skip Bayless said, well, T.O. could wait a couple years if Chris Carter waited a couple years. You guys weren't saying that. You were saying that he should not go in at all.
Next year's your first year.
I may
I would
campaign
vote for
against Tony.
I would
just for
vote
the hell
for
of
Somebody
it.
come
I may
against
campaign.
You know what? Kick rocks.
Tell him, Tony. Tell his big ass to keep. Whitlock's so damn big, he could stomp rocks.
All right, back to...
But anyway, good for T.O. Happy the brother finally got into the Hall of Fame. Now he can use this opportunity to turn himself into, his own corporation, his own business. So good for him. But anyway, peace.